satiating thirst of every single human being, the citizen of India. And if it is to take the waters to the drought affected area, even for one single crop protection granted to and guaranteed to every farmer, and a new alternative development paradigm is necessary. And that is necessarily to be decentralized, not just decentralized from the top to the bottom, but coming up from the bottom to the top. It is also to be labor intensive and natural resource intensive, but not like the Coca-Colas or the Pepsi's bottling water plant, which are water intensive in a vulgar way. It has to be labor intensive so that it can create income generation and employment for the local people who would harness the land and water. It has to be decentralized or acentralized so that the water is harnessed in the smallest possible unit of the mini and the micro watershed, and not starts with the river basin or the inter-river basin transfers, which have proved to be a failure. Those take waters away from the real needy populations to the corporates and to the city dwellers who can always buy water if they want to, and it makes a business through commodification of water. Privatization of one kind is there in the large dam paradigm, and the privatization of another kind, which is straight away, commodifying and marketizing water with the companies which are coming into large dams to build large dams, the companies which are coming in to use the large dam water through their bottling water plants, companies which are coming up to extract 500,000 to 2,500,000 liters of water per day, like the Coca-Cola, as I said. All of them need to be questioned.
I thought it was interesting, Medha Patkar, that you gave your speech at Emory in Atlanta, the headquarters of Coca-Cola. Have you been talking with Coca-Cola executives?
You see, they are not really interested for a truly decisive dialogue. And if the dialogue has to take place, it cannot be at Atlanta. It has to be at Pachimada in the state of Kerala, where for last more than 2,500 days, people are sitting in front of the giant gates of Coca-Cola, which are closed. And the factory is closed too, but they want the factory to be shifted out. And those are the indigenous communities which are taking a decisions, passing resolutions time and again to say that they have the rights to the groundwater and the land, which Coca-Cola has already destroyed, and hence should be compensated. It should also take place in the Uttar Pradesh state, where the factory is not really producing bottles, and it is not really even compensating the loss of the groundwater. It's the people who have brought their groundwater levels again by digging the small ponds and by saying no to Coca-Cola. The women at the forefront who have faced repression, so on and so forth. So the dialogue has to take place not with activists like me, but with the communities, and myself or Sandeep Pandey, and activists can always be a party to the dialogue because we are also a party to the conflict.
Medha Patkar, can you talk about the planned dams and, well, through South Asia, in Bhutan, in Nepal, in Pakistan, the plans to build mega dams that would go through the rivers of the Himalaya Mountains?
Oh yes, the dams have been bringing in devastation. You know, the Kosi tragedy, it's not a natural calamity. It's a man-made, not woman-made, man-made calamity, which is a result of building large dams, large barrages, and also the embankments. The river has taken a new path and changed it over, but it has drowned hundreds of thousands of people, and they are in a devastating state even today in the state of Bihar. But this is what is happening to the Himalayan rivers, which are being more and more tapped in spite of our unanimous report as World Commission on Dams, which even the World Bank was a party to. There were the former advisors to the World Bank on the commission like Thayer Scudder, and there were the presentations coming from the World Bank senior most officials and dialogues, and Wolfgang Sohn, the former president, released a report with Nelson Mandela. But it is certain that the World Bank has not learnt a lesson. They were taught the lessons, but they seem to be bad students. What can we do? They are still investing into the dams and dams and dams and large and giant dams in the northeast of India, in the Himalayan rivers and the regions which have the interstate flowing rivers, bringing in huge silt with the glaciers changing their paths and changing the water flows. And it's not just the climate justice that we want justice on the ground. And hence the World Bank needs to be seen as a party to the devastation, because they are now not just investing into individual dams. And World Bank's investment is not just World Bank's investment. It means giving a security to the bilaterals and multilaterals and the foreign to Indian multinationals to come in and invest. So the World Bank becomes the motherly lending agency, and this lending, which doesn't care for the social and environmental impact, which doesn't even care for the real economics of the project, as is proved in the case of Sardar Sarovar Narmada, where they came in with 5% of their budget at that time. But then they left back, they went out of Narmada due to the strong process, due to the independent commission's review, which really went against them, but leaving a mess behind to be cleared by all of us, our own governments and ourselves. And they influence the government's policies nowadays because they are funding the sectors. So in the water sector, they are bringing in large dams, they are bringing in the privatization, along with the ADB and other multilaterals, and they are really bypassing or ignoring the laws of our land, including the laws which give the indigenous and the farmer communities, the rural and the Adivasi communities, rights to the resources and right to development planning.
Medha Patkar,
these international financial institutions must be questioned, even by the people here, who should raise a question, where is their dollar going through the shares to the World Bank? I hope Obama takes this issue also as a part of his new development agenda, which we look forward to.
Finally, the special economic zones, the SEZs, what they mean, what they have meant for corporate control, where they are in India, and we only have a minute, and the people's movement against them.
You see, the special economic zones are really special exploitation zones. We want special ecological zones, we want special farming zones, special green zones, but instead taking it from the US-India Forum, taking it from US-India CEO Forum, where ours and yours representatives, not people's, but the governments and the corporates are really ruling. It has come to have hundreds of, not less than 700 as on today, while 1,000 are proposed within India, these kinds of zones where the corporates have loot ki chhoot. It's full tax concessions under 21 tax laws. And we don't want to follow the Chinese SEZ models. We don't want this kind of corporate zones at the cost of agriculture, the green land and the farms. We don't want them to get the priority over farmers and fish workers,
Medha Patkar,
water and power.
We're going to have to leave it there. I thank you for being with us, founder of the Save the Narmada Movement and the National Alliance of People's Movement. She's based in India. And that does it for our broadcast. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Burke, for the producer, Amate, Angelique Kamat, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar will be in Seattle on Sunday. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us.